This is You've Already Been Hacked, recorded on the 1st of May, 2026. Welcome back to You've Already Been Hacked. This week, I'm going to assume we're going to talk about a few more level 10s, at least. Cowboy, how's your week been?
It has to be at least. Can't go any higher. We gotta make a whole new category. Um,
You just call it
uh,
post-apocalyptic.
yeah, like just give up. Just stop trying.
Yeah, well, that's where it's going to get, right? That's what we were talking about last week. If quantum really takes over, I guess that's where it is until the
Uh,
good guys catch up.
Pretty much. No, I had a good week. Thanks. Yeah, I've had a busy last couple weeks at work and at home, but um, things are leveling out, which is good. So I'm well. How is the professor?
Getting there. Happy that we're at the tail end of this week. Hopefully a good reset over the weekend. We'll go with that for now. Yeah. All right, let's get into it. In our first story, the most severe Linux threat in years has surfaced. A new Linux kernel vulnerability dubbed copyfail has been discovered that allows an attacker to gain root access on major distributions. The vulnerability affects the Linux kernel copy on write or COW mechanism and can be exploited with a tiny Python script. The vulnerability is identified as CVE 2021-26372, although I'm not sure if that's right. You may need to confirm that for us, Cowboy. It impacts various Linux distributions, including Ubuntu, Debian, Fedora, CentOS, Red Hat Linux Enterprise, and others. The exploit involves creating a malicious file that triggers the COW flaw, leading to root privileges. This matters because this vulnerability directly impacts systems that need patching and monitoring as soon as possible, or if the patch even exists for the distribution or for the Linux kernel for that matter. Data exposure or credential theft of this kind means that potential regulatory and reputational damage will happen. AI-related developments reshape both the threat landscape and defensive capabilities, especially when we're talking at kernel level vulnerabilities. And because it's at the Linux kernel level, mobile platforms are going to be an expanded attack surface and potentially exploited. I'm thinking mostly on the Android world because that's just heavily modified Linux. What can or should you be doing about this right now? Well, you want to be checking your systems for wherever you have Linux inside of your infrastructure and make sure that your kernel is up to date and patched. You want to monitor any new security vulnerability bulletins or CVE databases for potentially related vulnerabilities to this. Review access logs for suspicious activity for as long as I guess you've had that kernel, because I don't know how long this copy on write vulnerability has been out in the wild. And audit mobile device security policies to ensure that your mobile devices, especially those that are based on Android, on Linux, are also going to get their updates as soon as possible. Cowboy?
Yeah, so that's an error on our part. It's actually CVE 2026-31431. Now, it is
31431.
interestingly
Updating
enough
notes.
only a 7.8
Oh,
on
that's
the
only a 7. I don't know, man.
I
Kernel
know,
vulnerability. I feel worse than that.
I know, I was surprised when I saw it. It's interesting, but it's a straight line logic flaw, and so unlike previous Linux LPE abuses, they don't need a race window or a kernel specific offset for this. It comes in the same 732 byte Python script roots that every Linux distribution has shipped with since 2017.
Wow. Since
Yeah, and so
2017.
yes, a straight line logic flow is a vulnerability where normal intended execution flow of code can be directly abused, right? So again, you don't need to win race conditions. You don't need to rely on specific timing, which is what Linux is generally all about in the way they process stuff. So it's kind of it's big deal because I think it's new for Linux in that aspect. So
So
while it's not a super high number, like it's a big deal.
wait. All right, let me just my brain's still wrapping around Are you telling me that this vulnerability has been in the kernel for 9 years?
It affects everything since 2017.
Wow. So this has potentially been a 0 day for quite some time.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it's only
Yes.
7.8 though. It's not a problem.
That's yeah, I don't, have the information from me to know why it's not deemed higher, but, yeah, again, we don't know when somebody found it and started using it, right? But
That's
it
right.
it affects basically every Linux distribution, again, since 2017 for the last 9 years. Every single copy.
Every single copy. That's crazy. All right. Well, get your updates, folks. That's all I can say. Okay. In our next story, there has been a critical cPanel authentication bypass, and it is being actively exploited in the wild. A severe authentication bypass vulnerability in the cPanel and the WHM, tracked as, and we should have this one right, CVE 2026-41940, and this is a 9.8 on the CVSS score, is being actively exploited in the wild.
That's
Attackers
better.
had been exploiting the flaw since at least February 23rd, weeks before any public disclosure or patch was available. This CVE is caused by a carriage return line feed or CRLF injection in the login and session loading processes of cPanel and WHM. You'll have to break that out for me, Cowboy. Attackers can inject raw characters via a malicious basic authorization header, allowing them to insert arbitrary properties such as user equals root into the session file and gain unauthorized root level access. This matters because the vulnerability directly impacts web hosting infrastructure used by millions of organizations worldwide. Root level access grants attackers complete server control, including all hosted customer data. And listings like this, 9.8s, unlike the 7.8 we just talked about, signal urgency for any organization in um, any given supply chain, especially federal, though, if you're there, because now those connections are potentially going to be vulnerable. So, what can or should you be doing about this? Well, check your cPanel versions immediately and apply the emergency patch that was released on the 28th of April. Block inbound traffic on ports 2083, 2087, 2095, and 2096 as an interim measure if patching is delayed. Audit authentication logs from February 23rd onward for suspicious or unauthorized activity, and hunt for unusual admin activity, any new user accounts, configuration changes, file uploads, or data exports that you don't expect. All right, Cowboy, there's your 9.8 for the night.
Finally, God, I felt dirty.
Yeah.
Like that's all we got. 7.8. Who are we?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're not Ron. Um, so WHM is just short for Web Host Manager.
Oh, there you go.
Right. cPanel's the company, and it's exploiting their Web Host Manager. And this is fun because carriage return line feeds injections are hacking 101. In fact, I'm teaching Pen Test Plus uh, next week, and CRLF injections are a whole topic.
Right.
And right, they happen when uh, applications fail to properly sanitize user input. That is coding 101, like
Mm-hmm.
for forever. So I I kind of want to say shame on them, like that. It feels, who knows how it happened, but like that's 101 stuff, right? And it does allow the attacker to gain unauthorized administrative access by injecting a \r\n characters into the authorization header. I, CRLF 101, injection 101, like that is so basic. So kind of disappointed that they let that get through. Yeah, get out there and get your patches done because like 9.8 right into administrator. Thank you very much for the pwnage. That's
Yeah. Not well. I mean, at least the emergency patches have already been issued. That's a good thing. The emergency patch was issued within 5 days of the exploit being found out in the wild. So I think that's that's, it's not net positive, but I think that's definitely fast response, to getting that out there, and now it's just up to everybody else to do their part and get their patches in place.
Yep.
Something
Yep.
else that'll need to be patched. Here we go in our next story. PyTorch Lightning compromised in the PyPI supply chain attack to steal developer credentials. Threat actors have compromised the popular Python package PyTorch Lightning, publishing two malicious versions, 2.6.2 and 2.6.3, both on April 30th. The campaign is assessed to be an extension of the mini Shia Hulad supply chain incident that previously targeted SAP related NPM packages. The injected code executes automatically on import and runs a background script that downloads the bun, that's BUN, JavaScript runtime and launches an 11 megabyte obfuscated payload. The payload is configured to harvest SSH keys, shell histories, cloud credentials, GitHub and NPM tokens, and cryptocurrency wallets, and to have exfiltrated data to attacker controlled GitHub repositories. The attack targeted the distribution layer, not the source code repository. So I guess that's worse? Question mark? Cowboy?
Yeah. Gosh, I feel that sounds familiar. I feel like we might have covered this a couple weeks or maybe a couple months ago. The
No, there
initial
was another NPM supply chain problem.
n no, yeah, I mean just the Shy Halud just sounds
Oh, maybe,
familiar,
maybe,
but
maybe.
yeah, so it's about 11.7 megabytes of obfuscated JavaScript credential stealers. And it exfiltrates the developer and the CI/CD secrets. If you don't know what CI/CD is, it's continuous integration or continuous deployment, which falls within DevOps software development, right, for building, testing, and deployment of code through attacker created GitHub repositories. So it harvests SSH keys, cloud credentials, uh, AWS, Azure, GCP, and Kubernetes, Vault and GitHub tokens, NPM tokens, and AI tool configuration files. Encrypts them with AES 256, self propagates, and off it goes. It actually persists through a Claude settings.json. So
Oh, interesting. Okay, I forgot about this. What could or should you be doing about this? Well, pin your
oops.
PyTorch Lightning version to 2.6.1 and verify that you do not have any systems that have installed 6.2 or 6.3. If you do, those systems will need to be cleaned up and segregated until they are. Immediately rotate your GitHub tokens and your cloud credentials, your SSH keys, your NPM tokens, or any other secrets stored in those developer environments. Good luck. I'm sure it's plenty. You want to audit those pipelines that Cowboy just mentioned, and PyPI quarantine does not remove copies from internal mirrors, Docker layers, or notebook images. So there's a lot of cleanup involved there. You want to search your repositories for any unexpected Claude or settings.jsons, as Cowboy mentioned, or VS Code or task.json modifications as indicators of compromise. You want to deploy software composition analysis tools or SCA tools to monitor open source dependencies for supply chain threats. And yeah, again, this is something that it keeps happening. We mentioned this very early this year that supply chain inside of developer stacks is becoming the target du jour. It's not so much the end application that's being targeted to gain compromise. It's everything those end applications are built upon that's now being targeted. And that's a real problem. And this is just another example of it. Cowboy?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Eh, I mean, you hit it there. Like it is one of the new golden pots of being targeted, and so if you're just now, maybe this is your first podcast you picked up of us. Thanks for coming and thanks for hanging around. But you need to get after the development section of however you do business, whether it's through third party or your own stuff, because um, we're only seeing increases hit, And because they're developer nodes and within GitHub, like they can spread so fast and hit so many people at once. And so, just implement good processes,
Or hopefully
please.
you already have them. And if you don't, yes, implement them, please, for for everybody's sake, not just Cowboy of mine.
That's right.
All right. In our next story, an FBI-led global operation arrests 276 in a crypto, uh, quote unquote, pig butchering crackdown.
Woo.
Unprecedented cooperation between the FBI and the Dubai Police Department and the Chinese Ministry of Public Security resulted in the arrest of at least 276 individuals and the dismantlement of at least 9 scam centers used for cryptocurrency investment fraud schemes targeting Americans, uh, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. Federal wire fraud and money laundering charges were unsealed in the Southern District of California against 6 individuals tied to 3 organized front entities. The entities are called the Thet Company, the Sandu Group, and Giant Company. Suspected suspects employed what's known as pig butchering, a long con fraud model where scammers cultivate trust through fake friendships or romantic relationships before steering
La
victims
la.
toward steering victims toward fraudulent cryptocurrency investment platforms. This matters because there have been record-breaking crypto fraud losses that signal the social engineering at scale remains one of the most effective threat vectors, especially in that particular segment. AI tools are lowering the barrier for scammers to craft convincing personas and communications. You can see that just in your phishing emails and how the English is just getting better. The cross border nature of these operations highlights the limits of any single nation's enforcement capability, and employees and individuals remain the last line of defense. You got to make sure you're doing the right thing and you're actually able to know who the people are you're dealing with. What can or should you be doing right now about this? Well, you should be training your employees and customers to recognize slow burn social engineering tactics, especially those involving unsolicited investment opportunities. You want to implement transaction monitoring controls that flag large and unusual cryptocurrency transfers, report suspected fraud incidents to ic3.gov, and review your organization's financial fraud awareness programs to address crypto specific scam patterns. Cowboy?
Wait, it is not often you see a Chinese agency
And a US
involved
agency working
in.
together.
Yeah, I mean, how did that come about?
Hmm.
But hey, we should have ended with this one on a good note. But hey, hats off. Always good to see. I mean, 276 people. That's and they hit, I don't think you said this, 9 scam centers
Yeah, I said
for
that, yep.
these schemes. Okay, so yeah, so they hit people and infrastructure, and they're all over, right? You had UAE, China, Americans in San Diego. You had Burmese nationals, Indonesian nationals, uh, probably some China ones if China was involved, right? Chinese nationals. Like uh, these groups are worldwide in different countries with different laws, and it just showcases the incredible complexity of targeting these groups at a worldwide level that are in different countries, right? And the same things they're charged with are going to carry different sentences in every single country, and you just hope it's enough to dissuade them from future scam activities.
Mhm.
But you're hurting good and partially naive people. So all of 276 of you, I hope you get the maximum, whatever that is, and I hope you stub both your little toes on something
Oh my god.
because I hate you.
Oh, yeah, stubbing your little toe hurts.
Dude,
That's an
it's the
interesting
worst.
punishment for the crime, Cowboy. Hey, this last story is a good news story, sort of. Depends on what side of the equation you're on. Apple has plugged a security hole that enabled, in this case, the FBI to access deleted signal messages on iPhone. Apple has released an iOS update that patches a significant security vulnerability that allowed the FBI to access deleted signal messages on iPhones. The issue was discovered in early April when 404 Media reported that the FBI could still read signal messages even after they were deleted from the app. This vulnerability affected both Signal's encrypted messaging and voice call features, posing a serious threat to user privacy. Apple's update addresses this security flaw, ensuring the deleted Signal messages can no longer be accessed by unauthorized parties. The technical details of this issue have not yet been disclosed. However, it is known that the FBI could exploit a weakness in iOS to access deleted Signal messages. The vulnerability affected all versions of iOS prior to the release of 26.4.2. So, while our source here is picking on the FBI, essentially anybody that had the potential capability could do this. So I'm on the side of it's good. Plugging a security vulnerability is good. That's where I sit. This matters because this vulnerability directly impacted systems that needed patching and monitoring, which is every iPhone ever. And if you can't update to 26.4.2, maybe you're on too old of a hardware, you may want to consider your secure messaging situation, or maybe don't send messages that need to be that secure on those devices. Um, a Government action on this issue sets regulatory precedent affecting all organizations. This is something likely, again, that's going to come up in how, and the FBI has said it for years, at least in the States, they want a backdoor onto people's devices. And Apple has been one of the companies that has continuously said, yeah, we're not going to do that. But if Congress gets involved, that's a different thing altogether. So we'll see what happens there. What can or should you be doing about this right now? Well, if you have an iPhone, update it. And if you haven't updated it, you should definitely update it. And if that's not clear enough, update. And if you have an iOS device at all, whether it be an iPad or an iPhone, you should update. Um, just update. That's really what you should do right now. You might want to monitor your vendor security bulletins related to this. You may want to review any activity on your iPhone. There are very technical ways, forensic tools that can help you see how or where the phone's been accessed within the confines of logs on the phone. So take that for what it's worth. So if you're more technical, you may want to use some of those tools that can let you peer really deeply into your system that way to see if everything is on the up and up, if that's actually something you're concerned about. Cowboy?
Professor, should I update my iPhone software?
Well, I mean, you have an iPhone 2, so I don't think you can. I
Yeah,
think you should just get a new iPhone at this point.
I I think it's a 1.5, but
1.5. He's still
um,
on
eh,
he's still on GSM networks, folks.
that's
He
right.
he hasn't moved on yet.
Technology scares me. um, Yeah, I have mixed feelings about this. I certainly agree with you from a general standpoint that anyone can access those. Like, yeah, that's bad. You want to get rid of it. I will take the high road and fully believe that anything the FBI doing is within the laws and regulations of our country.
Yes.
And there's the reason I'm a little iffy is just because you the forensics piece, right, of the after action of figuring out why somebody or people did something, and we see sometimes it's difficult to recover some of that information. So it's a double edged sword, and I mean, 98% of the time, there's not a need to
Oh,
recover that information, right? So,
Absolutely.
uh,
If you have the capability, I would say go ahead and take a look if you're that concerned about it, right? That was
right,
my point there. Like, but for general population, probably not. Agree with you that I think our agents at the FBI are doing their lawful activity. But I think if the FBI had access, and this is why I agree with Apple's argument of we're not going to put a backdoor into our systems, is if one person can get access, anybody can get access, right? And that's more
right,
of what the problem is.
yeah, and I'm totally on board with that, right? For sure. So we just need less bad people out there. That's all. No big deal whatsoever.
Right.
Um,
Right.
yeah. But
Well,
this goes back to, when we remember we talk about forensic stuff and it's like the age old saying of just deleting something off your computer doesn't actually delete it all the way, right?
ain't that the
At
truth?
the end of the day, you gotta melt it down or wand it or nuke it or microwave it, not a
I
nuclear
wonder if
weapon.
how
That's a
I
little
wonder
overboard.
soldered. I haven't thought about that so much modernly, but you're right. I wonder how that works with all the soldered chips that can't be removed anymore. Hmm.
Yeah, different steps to be taken to truly
Yeah.
relieve yourself of the burden of that data.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Cowboy, what else you got for us?
All right. Well, the reason they're calling it copy fails because somewhere between user space and kernel space, security got lost in translation. I'm Cyber Cowboy. Stay frosty, everybody.
And I'm the professor of CyberRisk. That's all the news for this week, and we'll talk again soon. If you like this podcast, share it with your colleagues and friends. Your support is how we are able to continue to make this content. Thank you.